Very good evening, it's Jim from Avstar. You know, I thought I'd talk about a few random things today in this video. Starting with, how right was I? Was I nearly right, almost right, or was I absolutely smack on the ball when I said to everybody in a previous video, go back and check it out, I said the markets are going to open in America and they're going to tank. And was I right? Yeah. And this, we're going to see this continue. It ain't over yet, because it's a sell market now. You know, the world trade and economy is folding up around America, and some people are saying they lost 10 trillion. I think it's more along the lines of 5 to 6 trillion, which is a big chunk. And Donald Trump boasts, oh, we've got 6 trillion being invested in the United States in new companies, which won't come online for 2 years. That's if they do that now. That was prior to his tariffs on the world. But here's what I want to say. Have you seen the response from everybody around the world that Donald Trump has put on their country in tariffs? It's anger. You know, they're going to be boycotting everything from America now around the world. And, you know, people still in the comment section, like I've had a few, over the last few days, we've hit some really hardcore Americans in the last few days that have said Trump's the best guy for us. You know, we've been ripped off by everybody around the world. Yeah, we've been ripping you off. Really? Or if your presidents that you've been electing have just been that poor in their ability to prop up and make good use of your economy, you know, failed. That's why you're in, you know, so many trillions in debt. Well, you know what? You've just had off your S&P 500, you know, you've just lost 6 trillion in a heartbeat, in a day. And even the likes of me, a small person with no really reach in the world, predicted you were going to have a big dip, and I got it absolutely 100% right. You know what? I could have made stock market broker companies trillions today. Absolute trillions. Because I knew 100% what was going to happen, and I predicted it. And if you don't believe me, go back in the videos, have a look. I said, watch what happens when the stock markets open. They're going to crash, and they're going to continue to crash, because you've just simply got a lunatic with an orange face running your country in America. And he has managed to just upset everybody. He's so bitter. He wants to annex Canada, steal Greenland. You know, much worse than Putin. He's threatening Iran with, you know, a Holocaust over there. He's supporting Netanyahu committing war crimes, and the international, you know, community want him to go to trial, and he's refusing. And America's allowing him to visit whenever they want. You know what? You're going to break international law. You're going to just, you know, impose all these tariffs. You're going to threaten to steal people's countries. Exactly where do you think this will go? America has destroyed, in the last 100 days, every relationship around this world. Tell me, is that the way to go forward? Is it? How are you benefiting when you've just lost, you know, a possible 10 trillion in a few days as the markets collapse? Oh, he's such a smart man, this guy, isn't he? Hey? And you know what? There will be Americans still staying in his corner, saying, oh, he will turn it around. You know, we've got to have the bad before we have the good. That's just wishful thinking. It ain't going to happen. You will have much worse to come over the coming days, over these tariffs. You don't make friends. You only make enemies when you do things like this. When you start saying that you want to impose yourself on another country and make it the 51st state, you know what? You don't make any friends. Canadians right now, they are going out their way to avoid American produced goods. It's going to put American companies out of business. Donald Trump says he's going to create business, and just like a politician, you know, turn it around 180 degrees and you get the reality. He's losing business. There he was on his Air Force One, and he loves that plane, flashing his gold card. That means anyone who's got just £5 million can become a United States citizen. Really? Really? So it is all about the money and not about the risks. Because, you know what, there are a lot of criminals around this world that have access to that kind of money, that would love to, you know, have that gold card and can afford it. And that's what Donald Trump is encouraging into America, and that's what you want. That's what you want. That's fine. You know. Let's see where this all goes. You know, when the American stock market's open again, they're going to tank. I guarantee you. If you thought, you know, the 5 or so % that they tanked yesterday was something to, you know, worry about, wait until the American market's open again. Because it's a sell-off season on America. It will continue to tank. And, you know, I tried to tell people in America, you know, this was going to happen. And they rose against me. They unsubscribed. I don't mind. It really doesn't bother me, because, you know, what I earn off YouTube is negligible now. It isn't worth even me crying over. You know, it don't really matter. So I feel I can say what I want. And if you get offended, then that's your prerogative. You know, you get offended as much as you want, because it doesn't affect me. You know what? YouTube don't love me. You know, have you not noticed something obvious again? Not only are we talking about Trump and the world leaders all going against him, and him not realising that he's done something wrong, because that should tell anybody, you know, when everyone goes on your back, you've done something wrong. But I've got YouTube, you know, who are acting the same way. You know, they don't like what I say. They don't like it because I'm right. And they hate the truth. And that's why we're broadbanded. You know, we're shadow banded. You know, obviously the algorithms work against us. Look at the views we get, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. You know, because I know a few people are out there listening. That's all I matter about. It's amazing what we're looking at right now. You know, I predicted X flares were going to happen within a 24-hour period. Only because, you know, I was concentrated on studying them and the occurrence and what led up to an X flare. I predicted the stock markets were going to collapse the other day, 100%. And what is our main thing here? It's the pole shift. I'm telling you, it's coming. It'll be Armageddon for some people. Trust me on that. This is the most serious thing that everybody in government around the world has overlooked. But it's coming. You know, they were concerned with CO2. You know, man-made CO2. And that was a joke. And I told people the truth on that matter. You know, CO2 is a smidgen that man puts into this atmosphere. Have a look at the natural production of CO2 that comes from land and oceans, and then compare that to what we put in there. And all I said is, you know what? This world will be long here after us, we're just dust in a speck of time on this planet. It's up to us how we want to respond to that little bit of time that we've got to do something right, or we can completely ruin it. You know, if you really want peace in your life, and I think some people will agree with me, and there'll be a lot that don't, because you know what, this way of thinking that I've got don't go down very well with a lot of people, because they don't like the reality of the possibility of the truth that could come from it. But I think, how many times do I have to prove myself? How many times before people start to listen? If you really want peace, then decomplicate your life. You know, a city is not sustainable. A little bit of land somewhere in a rural community and you'll have a happy life. Grow your own food. You know, if you can, produce your own energy or your needs in that respect, whatever way that is. Even if it's a log burner, do it. You know, if you've got to cook your food on a log burner, you know what, you're paying nothing out. You know, try and lose the grips that this world has on you to put you in work, to make you a slave, for you to exchange your labour for that paper currency. And that's another, on that note, there's another thing here. America are crying right now that the rest of the world, because of Donald Trump, has misinformed them, has been ripping them off. Have a look at his formula that he worked out on how to do his tariffs. You know what? How many? You know, the thing is, when people are set in their way and they want to support something, they'll support it to the death, despite all the facts saying something's wrong. So, you know, it's really hard to get the message across to these people. It really is difficult. And that's all really I've got to say.